Hello and welcome to this edition of A Gamer Looks at 40. My name is Bill Tucker, and today I dive into uncharted waters. Sonic. Growing up as a kid, I was Team Nintendo. I've said it a dozen times on the show already, and I never had a connection with Sonic. Maybe it was the marketing, maybe it was my own personal bias and fandom, or maybe it was just the people I was around. Sonic was never on my radar. And even as an adult, I've never really engaged with the character or the game. I never really found a reason to. It's the gameplay is not quite what I look for when I'm aiming for a retro experience. And I'm sure I'll be talking a lot about that in a future episode. But tonight I thought I would feature the story of one person. One person who had the exact opposite experience that I did. Where I was Mr. Mario, this guy was Team Sonic. And Sonic not only defined his fandom and his video game fandom, but really sculpted him as a person in some really interesting and unexpected ways. This is a very personal, kind of just one-shot interview episode. I'll do a few of these throughout this series, and here's hoping you enjoy it as much as I did as we take a look at somebody truly sculpted by Sonic.
Yo, he goes slow. He ain't no fool with that Sonic speed. He just always cool. Sonic the Hedgehog. No fool. Come on, just show me what you got. Going fast is cool. Going slow is not. Sonic the Hedgehog. No fool. Wild game, dude. Setting danger zones. You and Sonic speed through, or you are dead, son.
Sonic the Hedgehog, the hot new game from Genesis Games. Systems and games sold separately.
No fool.
Meet Ryan, creator and lead writer for the Games with Coffee blog. Now, I first met Ryan through some of the other sites that we write for, the now defunct Well-Read Mage sites and the newly risen thepixels.com, and we have very similar feelings about how games should be approached from a critical standpoint. And he's a good egg. He's just a fun guy to follow. And when I first started approaching the Sonic piece of this project, he was one of the first people I thought of to talk about. And man, I'm glad I did. He hosts a Twitch stream every Sunday where he does a Sonic Power Hour. His profile picture has a Sonic hat on it. He's a huge fan, and man, I'm really glad I did, because he not only is a fan of the character and of the franchise, he almost has a personal relationship. He's developed this love through a lot of just life experiences that are actually really unique and really interesting. So this episode is all about that. As we share a couple of these stories, there is a full, huge blog post with some of these stories in it and more that I will link in the show notes. So let's dive in and start where most of these stories start, as we're kids, on Sculpted by Sonic.
So I was about to start sixth grade, and I don't know how it kind of works here in where I live. Where I went to school originally, and I moved a lot around when I was a kid. Where I started out originally, I was in a school that started from junior kindergarten up to the 5th grade, and from there I would have moved to like a middle school or something like that. But where I used to live, that was a brand new subdivision when it was built back in 1994. So they built a brand new middle school to accommodate all the kids that moved into that subdivision. And after I finished 5th grade, I got shipped off to there before they realized, oh no, we're overcrowded. We need to build another school. So,
Wow.
so yeah, I was only at this one school for the 6th grade, and that was a pretty bad year, because as I mentioned before, I had ADHD, and right. I was on some meds midway up until maybe midway through the school year, and then my dad was like, because I was a literal zombie in class, and I couldn't see the forest from the trees at all. It was just, wow. It was really, really bad. So my dad was like, no, you don't don't subject yourself to this any further, right? So I stopped taking my meds, which then brought about my mood swings, and
Right.
yeah, it caused a lot of problems. But I remember when I first started sixth grade, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to get along with everybody, right? I mean, new school, bunch of new kids that I never met before. Some of them I did know from when I was at the old school, but like they're whatever. So I'm like, okay, make a great first impression. We're gonna play tag. I'm gonna chase these dudes around, and we're gonna try and make some friends and stuff like that. Problem was I was the slow fat kid. So
I know the feeling. I feel you.
So I for some reason I could not run fast. I remember I was just not good enough to to catch the other kids. I don't know if it was because my legs were just never. I never trained myself in running, or I never did enough running as a kid because I sat in my butt all day playing video games. But either way, I couldn't do it, right? Either way, I couldn't do it, and I was made fun of because of that. It was like, oh, Ryan, you can't come catch us, and I mean, I would have added some more vulgarities on that. Because we're 11-year-olds. We're 11-year-olds on the playground, little supervision. Yeah, we're gonna be cussing each other out.
Language, there's no filter on the language in the playground. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm from Jersey. All right, I listen. That was never a problem.
Totally. I think it was November or December time when this happened. It's No, it wasn't November, December. It was springtime, actually. Sorry. So this was springtime when this happened because I was not able to take out my bike during the winter months because Toronto Canadian winters are notorious for being very, very crazy. So
they're pretty brutal. Yeah.
They are totally brutal. So it was around springtime. I remember I went over to my aunt's house, and the same cousin that introduced me to the Genesis and the Sonic 2, he and his family ended up living in my aunt's basement. Like, she had a basement apartment, so they were living there, right?
Cool.
So I went there for a weekend, just to sleep over. I think my cousin, he wasn't around the house too much. He was older than me. He was well into his teens. He was doing his own thing and stuff like that. But I was still able to go down to his basement, and I was to his room in his basement. I'd pop on the Sega Genesis. I played Sonic 2, and I remember specifically here when I was playing it that one day after coming from another week of brutal, merciless teasing. I was looking at it, and I was playing Sonic 2, and I'm like, you know what? That's it. Enough is enough. I'm going to run as fast as Sonic the Hedgehog, even if it kills me.
Wow.
And that was the day, that was the moment in my life when I got myself to do some form of training.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what I used to do was, because it was spring, it was nice out now. So I would, I would get on my bike and get on it. And I didn't have headphones and Walkmans and stuff like that. I mean, we had the Walkmans. We had the cassettes. CDs were starting to come in fashion now, but they weren't as ubiquitous as they were when in the mid 2000s, the early to mid 2000s, right? So it was still the early years. So what I would do is I would just picture Chemical Plant going through my head over and over and over again. That was my favorite level in Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Wow.
Chemical Plant Zone, which is the second zone after Emerald Hill, which is also a great zone. Oh my god.
Sure.
Now I'm going to want to play Sonic 2 again. Okay, great. So, I mean, I had the music from Chemical Plant going through my mind over and over and over again. I was just pounding the pavement with this mountain bike, setting it onto the highest gear, so I would intentionally make it harder for me to pedal, you know, and I would just do that every single day after school. I was just like, okay, as soon as I get home, get on my bike, start riding. And normally I wouldn't do this, but the reason why I actually, pushed myself to do this kind of training was because my mom confiscated my video games every week, and she would only give them to me on the weekends. So I was just like, okay, well, whatever. So
something.
Gotta do something. I'm gonna go ride my bike. I'm not gonna do my homework. Are you kidding me? I'm 11 years old. I hate homework. I hate math homework. Screw that. I'm just gonna.
You have something to. You have a goal.
Exactly.
You have a goal. Homework. There's no goal in homework. Homework is just work to do at home.
Exactly.
Seriously, you had a goal. Yeah, keep going, man. Yeah.
So I wouldn't see any sort of fruits from my labor for like a couple of years. So I mean, after the whole tag issue, playing with the kids and when I was 11 years old, that was furthest out of my mind. I didn't really care about that anymore. All I wanted to do was just get fast, get strong, get fast, ride my bike every day, like just do that every single day and just like go as far and as fast as I can. And it wasn't until I was in 8th grade, I was 13, that I actually saw some fruits of my labor. It was
nice.
We kind of had this track and field day at school for gym class, and what happened was we were paired up, two people side by side. We'd run 100 meters down like a paved road. We didn't have like a track. We didn't have like a track ring or anything like that. It was just like I blame the Ontario government for this. They didn't give us any funding to actually build a track and field facility. But whatever, this is middle school.
Parking lot.
Basically, it's basically the parking lot. So awesome. we got set up, and got ready to go. I remember racing against this girl who was incredibly athletic. Like for a 13-year-old, she like was like on these sports teams and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
And whatever. And like I had no chance whatsoever. But what?
Right?
I looked at myself. I'm like, you know what? You got this, man. You all you gotta do is just do your best. And
nice.
Like, yeah. Like when I was 12, when I was 13, those were two of the hardest years of my life, I would say. Yeah. Because those were very, very dark times for me. But that one bright moment, that one bright spot for me was when I was running that track meet. And the moment they said go, I forgot everything. I forgot everything around me. I forgot all of my woes. I forgot all of my shortcomings. I forgot all of the darkness that I was holding inside of me. At 12 years old, at 12 and 13 years old, it was really, really, really bad. I was a really, really bad, really dark place at that age. But the moment I started running, everything just vanished. All those feelings just completely disappeared. I didn't think of anything else but just my feet hitting the pavement over and over and over again as fast as possible. And then when I hit the finish line, obviously I got beat. But you know what? To me,
I was rooting for you. Come on.
No, this girl beat me by a mile. But honestly, it didn't matter to me. It didn't matter to me that I lost. It didn't matter to me at all. Because at that moment, I felt like the wind. I felt like Sonic the Hedgehog. I was just like, what? I was never this fast when I was 11 years old. I'm 13 years old. I'm like tearing it down the track. Okay, sure, I didn't win, but that's progress, right?
That's progress. That is such a really beautiful story, and I'll explain why. I almost had a little bit, almost got a tear on there because it flies in the face of what I think a lot of people assume video games are, or definitely when we were kids. Absolutely. Right? It was a lazy activity. It was. You weren't doing schoolwork. You weren't doing homework. You weren't playing sports. You were sitting in the basement in the glow of a TV clicking buttons, right? But what that story shows is that it inspired you. It was inspirational. It inspired you to get out and be outside. Like, it inspired you to get outside, to run, to exercise, to work towards a goal. Because that's what you do in games. In games, you work towards goals, right?
Absolutely.
It's different than a homework. It's different than a lot of things a kid does my kid, he's 5. I just tell him what to do all day. That's what happens. He's a kid, and he gets told what to do.
Right.
But in this situation here, you had a goal, and you went fast, and your inspiration for that was this little blue character that you kind of fell in love with. That is very touching, and I think that's a really beautiful testament to how games can be transformative, not only on the screen or even just for fun, how they can really be transformative in our lives. And I think that's really touching. Thanks for sharing that, man. Thank you. We've talked about how Sonic affected Ryan's life as an 11-year-old and becoming a 13-year-old and discovering his physical abilities thanks to Sonic's encouragement to just go fast. So let's now move forward a few years to when he's about 16, 17, and how a certain game not only infected him from that aspect, but affected him artistically. Let's give it a listen.
It was kind of in the comic book phase, and also in the Sonic Adventure stage of everything, right? So, 1999, September 9th, 1999, that was when Sonic Adventure came out. And I don't know if you remember this, but when at Blockbuster Video, right? There was certain Blockbusters that had like a set of TVs with like consoles, and you could like test out the games before you get to rent them.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh yeah,
it's a god.
A lot of time spent at that thing.
Exactly. Myself, my best friend, and my brother, we would spend, like, when I'm not training or when it was just the weekends, we would spend every waking moment at a Blockbuster, just sitting in the store playing video games for hours on end. And
they wouldn't kick you out? They wouldn't be like, hey, come on,
they kicked us out, but we ended up coming back. We're like, oh no, we're gonna rent this game, but first we're gonna be playing some games first, and then we'll rent the game.
Oh, that's funny. We're gonna try these out extensively before we spend our hard-earned dollars on this, sir. Yeah, coming back with mustaches and like wigs and fancy hats, like disguises, just trying to get yourself back in front of the free games. That's funny.
Yeah, a lot of the games that I got exposed to during that time was because of Blockbuster. It was Parasite Eve for the PlayStation, which was a great but so terrifying game. There was that one. I mean, there was I think I played some N64 games. I think it was Die Hard Trilogy 2 I played at one point. I played so many games I can't even remember. But the one game that stood out on my mind the most was Sonic Adventure.
Nice.
For the Dreamcast, and my God, it was magic. I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I want a Dreamcast. I had a PlayStation at the time, and I'm like, damn it, I want a Dreamcast. I want a Dreamcast so bad so I can play Sonic Adventure on it, man. Why can't I get the Dreamcast to play Sonic Adventure on it? And yeah, it was great, and I thought to myself, I'll never get a chance to play it. And then all of a sudden, 2003, I was 16 years old. We got a GameCube around that time. So
okay.
And on that GameCube, I found out that Sonic Adventure, they had a director's edition. They had a director's cut of Sonic Adventure for the GameCube. And
that's right.
Yeah, this happened just after 2002 when Sega exited the hardware side of video game development, focused exclusively on software. And the first thing they went to was their bitter rivals at Nintendo and be like, yeah, hey,
I remember this.
Games
I remember this too, because I remember being a big deal, because I think Sonic Adventure was one of the first Sonic games that ended up on a Nintendo console, if I'm correct on that.
Absolutely. So it was Sonic Adventure 2 actually, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was
Okay.
was the first official Sonic game for a Nintendo console, and it followed right afterwards. I think about a week or two later was Sonic Advance for the Game Boy Advance, which is
Gotcha.
one of my favorite portable Sonic games.
Okay.
Right,
Cool.
beyond Sonic 2 for the Game Gear, and another title called Sonic Triple Trouble, which was a Game Gear exclusive. This game was absolutely breathtaking, pushed the Game Gear to its absolute limits.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I did a stream on that. It's been a popular game for me to stream over the last year, almost 2 years now. So
Nice.
people love when I play Triple Trouble because it was that good. It's that well
That's cool.
designed of a Sonic game. But then Sonic Advance, it's just the sprite work is one of the most beautiful sprite works I've ever seen on a portable Sonic game ever. It's just they're just the characters in Sonic Advance were so alive and so vibrant and so just gorgeous. It still remains visually one of my favorite Sonic games. And at that same time, because of the comic books phase, and I got into Japanese anime and manga and everything like that too. So
Sure.
I just started I'm going to start drawing anime, right? So
Nice.
I ended up in a very big anime phase from the 9th grade all the way up into my university years. But between when I was 16 and when I kind of petered off, or when I was around 27 or so, all I would do is just draw Sonic the Hedgehog. I literally, Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 got me inspired enough to start drawing Sonic the Hedgehog, like all the time,
Wow.
every time.
So that's what you mainly drew, like Sonic stuff?
Yeah, just mainly drew Sonic stuff.
Wow. Okay.
That's all I did, and that was big developmentally wise. That was huge for me, because I found that drawing helped kind of help me help with visualizations in my mind. It's sometimes, and this is kind of a weird thing to admit, but when I read stuff, I basically construct a picture in my head of the thing that I'm reading. So I start creating scenes, I start creating characters, based off of what I'm reading and stuff like that. I can pretty much imagine it's almost like a movie going off in my head. Right.
Cool. Yeah.
And so drawing Sonic the Hedgehog all the time. I drew this guy endlessly in various scenarios. I drew all the other characters. I drew Knuckles. I drew Tails. My Tails isn't exactly as great, but my Sonic is bar none the king. I'm so good at drawing Sonic. I can draw him almost with my eyes closed.
It's funny. I'm looking through the article that you have on, and I'm going to link this article in the show notes.
Oh, please,
so everyone
please do.
can check this out. Oh, absolutely. And I'm looking at some of the Sonic drawings. Yeah, they're spot on, perfect. They're dang near. Yeah, they're pretty amazing. They're really good.
Yeah, my favorite one on that particular one is just this pencil drawing where I just have Sonic just laying on the beach, just chilling out,
Yep.
and there's a midway around there. There's a boardwalk. It was drawn in perspective because I took a lot of art classes and we were doing a lot of perspective work there. So I was really inspired to do that, and yeah, it's just a really, really calm, really chill beach theme, and I'm just it was one of my favorites because not all the time Sonic has to go fast. He's a character who just likes to take it easy. He does
Sure.
things on his own time. He doesn't care about what everybody else thinks.
No, and it's neat, and it's definitely like you said, it's contrasting what you typically would expect from a Sonic character or a Sonic scene, right?
Yeah.
Moving fast all the time, but Sonic also, like you said, has the room to just chill out on the beach and watch the sunset. That's really cool. No, it's a cool rendering for sure. Two-thirds of the way through, and we've learned a lot about Ryan as he's traveled this life with Sonic by his side. The final segment of this show deals with his writing, and as I've said in the open, I met him through writing, so I know he's a very talented writer. He's very good at what he does, but I had no idea that he took... Well, I don't want to spoil it. I'm just going to let you listen to it. But what occurred from his Sonic fandom is pretty amazing. And it's a pretty amazing testament to the sort of inspiration Sonic can be to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. So let's listen in as Ryan tells us how Sonic influenced him as a writer.
All right, so it was around the end of high school. No, not just the end of high school. It was around university where my biggest project came about. And I got to give you some background because I kind of skipped over this a lot.
Okay.
But the fact that I got so into writing right now wasn't a complete accident.
Okay.
Like I didn't just start becoming a writer all of a sudden back in 2017. Started writing up my blog Games with Coffee, just out of a whim. It just
of course
it
not.
it was a giant evolution. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening to this, Sonic the Hedgehog had a huge influence on my writing.
Yeah, don't say.
I am not kidding you. I am not kidding you. Going back to when I was 7 or 8 years old, right?
Okay. Yep.
And I had a creative writing, like one of the things that we do in school is like we do creative writing, so you have to make up your own story.
Right.
I was playing Sonic 2 at the time. I couldn't beat it. I had an idea of what may have happened, so I'm thinking to myself, heck with this, I'm going to write a story. So the very first story I wrote as a kid, obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog, was a fan fiction of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Game Gear. Complete with illustrations.
Whoa, with illustrations and everything.
Everything.
You were writing fanfic at 8. That's a riot. That's so good. Good
it wouldn't
job.
be the first time either.
I was gonna say, have you did you ever write more fanfic for Sonic over the years?
Oh man. Before we get into that, let me just finish this off by saying that.
Oh, sure. Go for it.
No, because that's an excellent question, and I'm going to answer that. But we need some background on this, my friend. There's a lot of background on this, because not only did I write fan fiction for Sonic 2, I submitted this as my actual creative writing assignment.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, I submitted fan fiction for creative writing assignments, and it wasn't the first time. That wasn't the first time I did that. When the Super Mario Brothers movie came out, it's that terrible, absolutely terrible Super Mario Brothers movie event. I made a fan fiction. I wrote a fan fiction for that. I submitted that for 3rd grade.
That's amazing.
When I first played Alundra for the PS1, and Alundra is like it's kind of like a Zelda on steroids a little bit. One of my absolute favorite Zelda-esque video games of all time. It's
Sure.
an underrated gem. People need to play this game more often. Anybody listening to this, go to the PS3 store, download Alundra, play it. You will thank me. You will thank me for it.
All right, fair enough, man. I'm in that boat. I'm gonna have to do this now. Yeah. So continuing on with the because I need to hear more about your fanfic and how this has progressed.
So I played Alundra. I only had it for about a week. I fell in love with this game. I wrote a fanfic about it. And I submitted it for standardized testing. There was a standardized testing requirement in my in our hometown, right, in our home area,
Yep.
where you have to not only have to do like math tests and like English tests, but you also have to do a creative writing test. And I submitted a fan fiction of Alundra.
So great
for my creative writing assignment.
That's amazing. I imagine if there's one professor's super cool who recognizes all. He's like, I think this is an Alundra. Is this? No, it can't. Some kid wouldn't be bold enough to do that.
I was that kid. I was bold enough, and
that's
it
amazing.
Flew over everyone's head.
Love it. Hey, listen, that's creative. I don't know. That's awesome. Maybe some kid right now doing a Fortnite fanfic and submitting that to class or something, like a modern child doing that. Man, that's good. Very good.
It would mean the legacy lives on. The legacy lives on.
That's right. I'm down with that. Listen, it's a derivative work. Nothing wrong with that. It's
Absolutely.
fine. I think it's perfectly fine.
But yeah, ever since then, it's just like I've been writing. I've just been writing fan fiction for as long as I can remember. Again, it started again with Sonic the Hedgehog, and I had I had notebooks full of unfinished, unstarted fan fictions, just like ideas, doodles, sketches,
Right.
all sorts of things. But like, really, where it all started taking off, um, it was it was after I finished high school. I was around 19 or 20 years old, so this would be 2007, right?
Yep.
I bummed off my university studies. I majored in mechanical engineering, by the way. And so I know you guys can imagine that that the course load as a mechanical engineer is absolutely brutal.
Yeah. No. Yep.
Yeah, for the first year of university, I nearly failed miserably. But Sonic always told me never to give up, so I followed Sonic to the end, and I stuck with it. So,
There you go.
I dug myself out of the hole.
Yeah, I went to an engineering school as well, and so I totally get how much math and how just brutal that coursework is. Yeah, no, totally.
Absolutely. So, okay, so 2007, I was in the middle of digging myself out of a hole. I think I was taking a philosophy class during that time as well too. So I think that may have been part of an influencing factor on this. But anyways, so here I was in my room. I was supposed to study. I was like, forget this. I'm not going to study. I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII again for like the gajillionth time. And then I was playing Final Fantasy VII, and again, because I was taking this philosophy class, and I think I don't remember what the topic was, but for some reason it stuck. Like philosophy stuck out of my mind, and I'm like playing Final Fantasy VII again, and I'm like, you know what? Sonic and Zack and Tails and Cloud, they're kind of similar to one another in many, 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 many ways.
Now, before we continue, I just wanted to put out a quick note of spoilers for Final Fantasy VII. Normally, I wouldn't care too much for a, PlayStation 1 game, but since we have the remake out there and the remaster or whatever else they call it, just want to fire that out real quick for those who haven't played it and want to go into the game completely unspoiled. If you are in that boat, skip around to 34:50 in this recording, and you should be free and clear. Back to the show.
Final Fantasy VII, I'm pretty sure everybody and their mother knows the story behind that. Like the true story behind that, not just the story you see when you boot it up, but the true story. Zack rescued Cloud from their confinement in the Shinra Manor in Nibelheim. After 5 years had passed from the Nibelheim incident, where Sephiroth went mad, killed everybody, and tried to take his decapitated mother's head to the Promised Land.
Yes, basically yes.
Yeah, basically yes. So, when I was remembering that scene, and I looked at it, and I always realized, and I made the sudden realization that Cloud always looked up to Zack, and then I made that connection in the same way that Tails also looked up to Sonic. He looks up to Sonic so much. Like when they started out in Sonic 2, it's like Tails always wanted to be like Sonic. And then I made the connection that Zack always wanted to be like Cloud. Cloud always wanted to be like Zack. Not the way around, right?
Sure. No, yeah, for sure.
And then from there, it just, the connections just started being made in my mind, right? It's like not just only with the characters, but like with the elements of the materia in Final Fantasy VII. You can make a case that they're similar to Chaos Emeralds, because in the Sonic comics,
sure,
they're not just 7 emeralds in the Sonic the Hedgehog comics for the Archie series. There are there are emeralds coming out of the wazoo. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. Okay. So like emeralds are ubiquitous. And then not only that too, but like if you think about like Shinra Incorporated and like Robotnik, like they're pretty similar in themselves. They're megalomaniacal companies that want to rule the world. And they rule the world with machines and power and technology and stuff like that. It's like this is right up Robotnik's alley here. Like Rufus Shinra is just as ruthless as Robotnik is, and Robotnik is just as ruthless as Rufus Shinra is. So there's the connection there.
That is so interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels. You have a point for sure.
Yeah, and so because of all those parallels, I'm like thinking to myself, you know what? At first I did a character analysis between Sonic and Tails and Zack and Cloud, and then from that character analysis, I'm just like, bump that. I'm gonna start writing fan fiction again. And that was what turned into what is now called Mobius 7, which is the fan fiction. 7. Yeah, which is the fan fiction series that I've just finished writing the first book for back in let's say March. Actually, December 31st, 11:45 p.m. 2020 was when I finished the rough draft of the final chapter for the story.
Wow.
And then I've been publishing it since I've been publishing chapter by chapter since June of last year, and I just wrapped up book 1, 42 chapters, 170,000 words.
What?
And we just wrapped this up back in March of this year. So March 2021.
Congratulations. What an accomplishment.
And dude, I'm telling you, this was 15 years in the making. I went through...
Man.
I had about 2/3 of the original write-up made and like partially published on like fan fiction sites until I actually read it out loud to my wife, Mrs. Coffee. One night when she was like, feeling sick, and she just looks at me and she just read me something, anything, I don't care what, I need you to read me something to put me to sleep. So I started reading my fan fiction, like the original draft, and I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. What the heck was I thinking writing this?
Yeah, that happens. So is this available now for purchase, or?
Oh, it's not purchase. It's on my site. Games with Coffee, free for anyone to read.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Man, congratulations. That's awesome. Definitely make sure we link that in the show notes as well.
Oh, please do. I mean, this is my baby here, and I'm actually in the middle of writing the next installment of this.
The next installment. That is awesome, man. Wow. Again, congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. Wow. What a 15. And it's funny. I literally really thought when you're talking about your first fan fiction for a school assignment, right? And you're like, oh yeah, I've done it here and there. I've written some fan fiction. I didn't realize you wrote basically a novel. Like, that's awesome. Yeah. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's excellent. What would you say to somebody like me? You have like 2 minutes. You're at a party or at a gathering, and they meet you and they're like, oh, I play games. And you say, yeah, I play games too. And they're like, oh, you're a Sonic fan. I say to you, I've never understood Sonic. Like I said at the beginning of this show, right? I don't get Sonic. I just don't get it. What would be the elevator pitch that you would give to that person to say, you know what, give it a shot? And really, what would that elevator pitch be for you?
Oh wow, put me on the spot, man. Okay.
I mean, listen, I can't I can't let you off easy.
I'd say to somebody, what does freedom mean to you? What do you feel when you just kind of let go, let loose all your inhibitions, That's the first thing I want to ask you about that. Like, what do you think about when you want to let loose and just want to go crazy and just, get out and run, get out and do something? And the reason why I ask that is because that is what embodies Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic is freedom. Sonic is the wind. There's beauty and simplicity in Sonic's story. He's just a blue hedgehog who can run really, really fast and is just out to free his animal friends from the oppressive regime of Robotnik and his technological dominance of the planet. That's really all it is. That's how simple Sonic the Hedgehog is. But he does it with style, he does it with flair, he does it with grace, He's got a big heart, and he genuinely cares. He genuinely cares about the people he saves and the people he interacts with. People say he's a lone wolf, but really he depends on his friends more than anything else in the world. And just play it, just take it all in, take the speed in, and just let yourself be free. Let yourself feel free from all of that negativity, all of that terribleness that's happening in this world, and just run. Just feel the wind, feel yourself. And that's how you embody Sonic the Hedgehog. That's how I would try to convince you, my friend, to get into Sonic the Hedgehog, because that is what it's all about, positivity, freedom, feeling like the wind, feeling that you can do anything if you put your mind to it.
If you want to learn more about Ryan and his connection to Sonic, I've included an article in the show notes that has these stories and more. Definitely a really great read if you are interested. And I've also included a link to his fan fiction if that is interesting to you as well. As for me, thanks so much for listening to A Gamer Looks at 40. If you enjoyed the show, please do all the podcast things. Like, subscribe, write, and review. All of those things are greatly appreciated. And check us out on Twitter at A Gamer Looks at 40. Until next time, go fast.